Alrighty, I want to call the Accelerated Ed Task Force meeting to order today. I want to thank everyone for being here on our call today, and I want to thank all our advisory groups for listening in, and also for everyone out there that has been sending us comments. I know it was a quick turnaround from our last meeting last Thursday, but we got a lot of comments, and we really appreciate everyone taking the time to share with us their thoughts, and we appreciate Brian posting those so that our groups could see and read through those thoughts. So again, thank you for taking the time to send us some feedback. I'm gonna go ahead and move right into our meeting. And Superintendent Molly Spearman, if you would, go ahead and give us an update. Thank you again for your hard work. I know you've been working over the weekend too, and getting prepared for working on the budget side of what, the funding side of what we are trying to accomplish here, and thank you for that hard work.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Good. I want to thank staff members at the department. Katie Neal just led an effort over the weekend working with Dr. Mathis and Nancy Williams, our finance director, to give some more detailed information to the Accelerate South Carolina Task Force Committee. We sent an updated report to them with an updated funding request for summer school, or we're calling it now ARC, Academic Recovery Camps, for kindergarten through third graders in language arts and math. The biggest challenge was to get a more definite number on the prospective students for the summer, July, and probably starting around July 6th. So Dr. Mathis surveyed districts, and the count that we feel more comfortable with is that there would be 25,000 students participating in a face-to-face summer camp of 4 weeks, about minimum 3.5 hours a day, with transportation provided. I'll give you, and then another almost 5,000 students who would participate virtually. We have 10 districts who are well established in e-learning who've said that their first choice would be to offer a virtual summer camp. I know that there are committee members or task force members who feel very strongly that face-to-face is the best option. And I agree with that in most circumstances, but we do have those 10 districts who would prefer to do a virtual as their first option. And then we ask the question, if face-to-face is not available or possible, how many students do you think would participate in a virtual situation? And for that number, we have about 35,000 students there, an additional 35,000 students. So our finance office worked very closely with our instructional office, and we broke down the cost per student. Dr. Turner made it very clear to us in the recommendations from his finance committee that the funding had to be there to support this for the districts. So the average cost that we have estimated now, and this is an average based on the average teacher salary of each district, because that's how it would be funded to each district based on their average teacher pay, on their average school bus driver pay. The average is $1,766 per student. That includes the following breakdowns: 1 teacher for every 12 students, 1 teacher aide for every 12 students, a nurse for every 200 students in the facility, 1 counselor for every 250 students, an administrator and reading coach and custodian for every 250 students, a bus driver for every 26 students, It also includes an enhanced amount for instructional supplies, materials, and diagnostic tools at $750 per student, and a reimbursement for meals, because we know that the USDA excuse me, reimbursement doesn't always cover the full cost of meal or labor. So we added 40 cents for meal costs, 40 cents for labor costs. And that's how we came up with $1,766 per student. For the virtual amount, one teacher for every 12 students, and the $750 per student for instructional supplies comes out to $1,351 per student. So the new number that we are requesting from Accelerate SC, and then that I will be going to the legislature tomorrow for a request, and my first really conversation publicly with the General Assembly, is $50,759,092 for face-to-face instruction for 25,000 students and virtual instruction for approximately 4,900 students. So I know that we are getting a lot of really good suggestions, more questions over the weekend. I've been reading the comments, so I really appreciate all the people who have responded, as well as the professional associations who've gathered their response. I think we need to take some time today to look at those. Some we need to add some comments. There seems to be a real desire to get more details, and that's difficult to do, but we certainly will be working to get to that point. I appreciate the work that y'all have done. I think we're very close for our recommendations for our ARC, for our academic recovery camps, and then we've got some more work to do, obviously, for our school opening in August. I was on a TV station this morning, and lots of questions coming in from parents and teachers about the availability, and do we really believe that we'll be able to make a go with face-to-face instruction? I'm optimistic, cautiously on it. I think, again, we need to be prepared, and that's what this task force is all about. How do we get prepared? We want to be back face-to-face because we know that's the most effective way for us to work with students, and they get so much out of that full experience, and we want to bring that as much as we can. But at the same time, with our number one goal to protect the safety and health of our students and teachers, we still have to understand that this will be a call as we get closer as to whether or not we'll be able to proceed with this. So those are the comments I have. Be happy to answer any questions and look forward to your dialogue as we go through the meeting.
Thank you, Superintendent Spearman. Any questions from the task force at this point, Superintendent Spearman? All right. Next on our agenda is a discussion of the summer learning and operations feedback. And I'm going to ask Ryan Brown if he would just list the groups we heard from and got their feedback from. Ryan?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Coleman. So I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order, and these are as of right before we started this meeting. So if there's any emails that came in the last 5 minutes, it won't be included. The first we heard directly from parents and teachers. Those are parents and teachers who reached out via email on their own to provide feedback directly on summer programming and not on the fall. We also heard from the following organizations, associations, and groups: Carolina Family Engagement Center, Charleston County School District, Palmetto State Teachers Association, SC4Ed, South Carolina Association of School Administrators, Superintendent Division, South Carolina Association of School Librarians, South Carolina Education Association, South Carolina School Boards Association, South Carolina School Improvement Council, South Carolina Social Emotional Learning Alliance, and Think Shops, which is a program out of Clemson University.
All right, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate, again, feedback from all of those groups and from individuals. I'm going to ask the sub-chairs. I know they have looked through these through these feedback and ask them if they would to comment on their specific sections, or if there are any parts of the feedback that they want to make changes on. And also, Superintendent Spearman, if you have any questions on these, please feel free to speak up. So Alan, I'm going to ask you to start with your subcommittee on responding to this feedback.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. And let me say that there was quite a lot of feedback to go through. It was very much appreciated. Not only was a lot of thought put into it, but certainly a lot of passion went into it. And so we've looked at it very carefully. We think for the limited purpose of what we're trying to do today, our report can stand as is. However, we do anticipate as we get into looking at the fall version, which will be more detailed, that we'll be incorporating some of these suggestions into that more extensive report. I would say that some of the concerns, for instance, had to do with with everybody wants a nurse in every school, but if you had the money magically today, could you go out and find them? And the answer to that is probably no. We certainly found that out with the school resource officer money, but it is a goal to work towards. So I would just ask that people remember that the recommendations we're making are just that. They're not mandates, and they're not in any way meant to tie the hands of districts. We want them to have the flexibility they need to make the decisions that are most suitable for their particular circumstances.
Thank you, Alan. Any other comments from your subcommittee? I agree with you. I think a lot of the comments too were about the fall and trying to answer some of those questions that we're still working through, and hopefully we'll get some more information on. So hopefully we'll be able to have some of those answers. But I think that right now, and what Superintendent Spearman has asked us to look at, your recommendations are on task. So next, I'm going to ask Patrick if he would give a report.
Thanks, Dr. Coleman. I would echo what Alan said, that there was some fantastic feedback provided that was rich and detailed and thoughtful, and a lot of it addressing the fall, because we know that's where people's hearts are naturally being drawn, is thinking about reopening in the fall. And so our subcommittee has taken really rich notes on recommendations that are more aligned to the fall, so that we can inform our work in that area. There were three areas that really popped in terms of summer specific things that we would like to propose as edits to our recommendation in the area of instruction. And Dr. Coleman, I don't know what's preferable here. Do you want me to just read them out loud? Do you want me to email them to the group? Just read them out?
Yeah,
all right, so
you can, and if you want to, if you've got them where you can send them and the task force can pull them up and look at it, that'd be fine. If you have that. Okay. Available, but then you can go through them.
Yeah, I'll send those in just a second. But here's the three. The first one is on page 7, item number 8 under learning. There was a good recommendation made. Number 8 is the one that deals specifically with CTE programs. And the recommendation was to amend that language to state staff opportunities for high school and adult education students. Because we have a lot of adult ed programs that do CTE certification. So question, especially for John or anyone else related to finance, my only question there would be, is that allowable with federal funds to extend to adult ed? And if so, I think our subcommittee would be comfortable adding that language to our recommendation.
Comments from
John? I think you're muted.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, so adult education is included in one of the allowable areas. So Perkins, adult ed, IDEA, and ESSA programs for the CARES funds that we will flow through. Any allowable expenditure under those federal programs is allowable use of this CARES for this ESSER money that we're going to flow through to schools.
Fantastic, thank you. So we would suggest that amendment, and I'll again email that language out to everyone in just a second. The second one is on page 9, number 2 under formulation. just some clarity around the social and emotional learning PD piece. There were recommendations from several groups that indicated just a desire for a little bit more clarity there. So we're going to propose changing the language to encourage districts to focus on distance learning and instruction, which was what was existing. And then the amended language would be, and the implementation of a multi-tiered system of support for students, including learning in areas of social and emotional needs and trauma-informed practices. Because there was good feedback from associations about how SEL and trauma-informed aren't necessarily two distinct issues so much as they are both parts of a effective MTSS system. So we wanted to reflect that. And then the final one is for page 10, number 4, under transition. The last sentence that talks about teachers not being asked to simultaneously create 2 types of instruction in the fall. We'd just like to amend that to indicate that it should state simultaneously create and implement 2 forms of instruction. So the words and implement would be the addition, which again was suggested by one of our professional organizations that responded. So I'll send those out to everyone right now. I don't know if anyone else on the subcommittee had any thoughts, because we were trying to email and communicate this morning, but it was a quick turnaround.
Any other comments from the subcommittee? Any other comments from the task force? Those are all good points, and as I looked through it, I think you pulled out those points that we did hear from groups on. Any questions for Patrick on any of those? All right, Scott Turner, why don't you report?
I concur with Patrick and Alan. There was a lot of good feedback from all the organizations. It seemed like the recurring theme for our subgroup or subcommittee obviously was the finance piece and how that would work. And I think, Molly, you've addressed that this morning. I think a lot of people still need to know the timeline in terms of the actual process of who the groups you're having to go through, or if I can call them hoops that you're having to jump through to get approval for that funding, and when you think we may know that. A second recurring theme, and most of them had to do with transportation. And I know that the department met with DHEC, and we're waiting on guidelines from DHEC. A lot of people want to know specifics about what is the capacity of a bus, whether it be summer or leading into the fall, and that may change between summer and fall, but they're really looking for some kind of guidance so they can plan even this summer. How many students can they safely put on a bus? The third one had to do with possible workloads. If we're asking people to serve meals in classrooms, the workload and the cleaning requirements that would be required, not only in serving meals, but also in cleaning, not only disinfecting, but just the manual process of cleaning if you're actually taking meals, cafeterias to classrooms. And that's all I had.
All right.
Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
I wish I could be definitive about the timeline on the funding. Accelerate SC is meeting again on Thursday. The chairman, James Burns, and Senator Ryberg have been invited to present tomorrow to the Senate Committee on Reopen South Carolina, and I'm presenting right after they are. So I hope this week, that's fast. I know that's slow for us, but I hope we'll have some stronger indication, at least informally this week, on the funding. But that's about the best I can say for right now. But I know it is imperative that we have to know the flexibility for the department to upfront the money is already granted. We can we can do that, but obviously I need some assurance from the General Assembly that they are going to agree to reimburse us. And hopefully I'll have something in writing soon, but, I can't speak 100%, but I hope that we can get that done very soon.
Any other questions or comments?
Molly, can I just follow up and say, does anyone at the department have any idea when you will hear from DHEC on transportation guidelines?
I'm not sure if Virgie Chambers is on the call. We have, we talk with DHEC almost on a daily basis. And I know that, and I'll ask Ryan Brown, because I think Ryan was involved with the initial conversation between DHEC and actually physically looking at the bus and coming up with a recommendation. Ryan, could you help me or Virgie with where we are in that procedure?
Yes, ma'am. I don't believe we spoke with them last week. We had a meeting last week and, provided some of the information from the conversations we've had in this task force, and then also just among transportation directors in the state. They were going to work over the course of last week and get back to us with a final set of recommendations. I know that both the holiday weekend and the Centers for Disease Control have also issued some guidance over the last 3 days that may change how exactly DHEC puts theirs together. So I think probably best if we touch base with them today and see where they're at.
And I see Virgie has responded here in our chat box that she has not heard back from them on our proposal. So again, hopefully very soon.
All right, Ms. Spearman, do you have any other comments on any of the feedback that we received as far as our recommendation?
I read through recommendations that have been sent, and I understand there seems to be a need for superintendents and principals, teachers wanting more detail for us. I think that we need to do that as much as possible, but at the same time, we need to give the flexibility to those school districts and their school boards to comply and make decisions with their own facility needs, with their own community needs, as far as the time they're going to start school. We've been talking here in the chat box about the required time for summer school even. I think most districts want to delay the start of summer school as long as they can so that it runs up until their start time. Honestly, we've got discussions going on, and in the comments that superintendents sent us and from our call that I have with superintendents every week, there's some districts who are wanting to start as soon as possible. They want to move forward. They had the third Monday as their first day for students, and they want to add on this, if we have the funding for those 5 extra days, to move that a week early and have their teachers come in a few days before that. So it really juts right up to the ending of summer school with a day or two there for break to clean the buildings. There are other districts, a smaller number, but there are other communities that are thinking about pushing their start date back and not starting until Labor Day. So for those districts, it's possible then they might not do their summer school until August. So I know that gets us, it's nice when everybody's uniform, but I think this is a time for flexibility in those dates. So I would just ask the task force to consider that, to keep those kind of decisions at the local level, and we can work within those parameters at the State Department of Education. That would be my main concern, I think, at this point. As for the funding, and I think this it is a reality, the shortage of nurses, shortage of counselors, all of those essential, even more essential employees that we're going to need now. We've got to know very quickly so that folks can get out and start trying to put folks on contract to do that kind of work. So as soon as possible. And I hope this week we can have some type of assurance from the General Assembly that they plan to reimburse us for both of these, the 5 days early and then the summer school program.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly. Any other comments from members of the task force or questions on the recommendations? All right. Yes, ma'am.
I see where Missy has commented that the custodial calculation may not be high enough. Missy, you want to
Yeah,
comment more on that?
I'm just a little bit concerned about that, especially in a smaller district that may not have as many students there. If you think it is a small ARC program, and just only having one custodian there, given that we're still in the land of unknown as to exactly what we need to do and the depth of the cleaning. We're still learning those new procedures, and I'm just concerned, especially early on in those first few critical weeks, that we may not have enough custodians on hand at that 1 per 250. So just a thought.
Well, and I think that's true, and even some of the other areas. Now, I will say that there are other pots of money, including the allocation that the districts are going to be getting of that 216 million or 196 million, I guess it's coming to districts. So those type supports are allowable in the district allocation as well. I know we want the state to upfront this as much as possible, and you're speaking up for your district, so that's what you're supposed to do. At this point, we have sent this request to the committee, and as we move forward, it's possible to make some adjustments, but we'll take that into consideration when I talk with them, with the legislature.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Kathy, just for a quick clarification of the superintendent, Molly, you're saying that the department has now redefined the original request of 115 million, which is now roughly 55, bearing it down to bare bones, if you will. And do we believe that Accelerate SC is going to support that and in turn make our case with that request of the state Senate, or are we still at somewhat of a disagreement?
I do not know. The committee is meeting Thursday, so we'll know for sure then. I do know it appears that they are in support of making a recommendation for a summer school funding. The amount I still don't know. But again, this is recommendation to the governor, and then the governor will go forward with his recommendation to the General Assembly. And of course, we make our pitch there as well. So that might be a spot where we could use some help for any advocates that want to support us in talking with their General Assembly members when it gets to that point.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other questions or comments? Then I would ask that we have a consensus to move this forward with Patrick's suggested changes as recommendations for summer programs to Superintendent Spearman. If there are any objections, I'll be happy to hear those or note those. If not, then I'd like to recommend that we finalize this document and send it to Superintendent Spearman as the task force recommendations for summer programs. Knowing we will continue to work on the fall recommendations, that many of the comments relate to those, that we will continue to get feedback, and that hopefully get some of the questions answered in between.
So, Dr. Coleman, thank you. Thank you. If you need to finish that action item, I'll wait and hold my comment.
All right. Hearing no objection, then we'll move forward with finalizing this document and sending it to Superintendent Spearman.
I would you, or do you have dates already in your mind for the committee to meet again to finish up and really focus in on the summer work?
I think what I'd like is to take this feedback. There's subcommittees to set their meetings up and continue their work on recommendations for the fall. And then as soon as they've been able to do that and are ready to meet again to continue to work, we will do that as soon as possible. I know that, and then you would like a recommendation in the next couple of weeks on the fall. I know that there are a lot of parents and educators. Everyone's kind of anxious to know. So we will continue to work as hard as we can, and as soon as our subcommittees can. I know that they have been continuing to work on those, and so they'll continue to work as soon as they can get those meetings set up, and then we'll schedule our next meeting. But I want to give them time to go through the comments some more and work, and then we'll meet again. But we will work diligently to get you those recommendations as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, I want to thank the task force for their work extremely hard on these recommendations, and that their continued work on recommendations for the fall. And again, we appreciate everyone's input and feedback, and we will, we continue to work with your staff. I know they're working hard to put information together for our task force, and we appreciate that. So if there's no further business, then we'll adjourn the task force for today. Thank you very much.